Welcome to the Atomic Voodoo Lounge, New Stanton's one and only surreal dive bar, bringing you beauty and magic and terahertz tragic. I'm Maxwell Vegas, writer, poet, musician, and author of the soon-to-be-published novel, New Stanton. Descend with me into the static buzz of late-night radio, where words and music swirl through neon dreams and drift like cigarette smoke out over dried-up prehistoric seas. But Maxwell, you may ask, am I in the right place? Well, if you crave the feelings of midnight and strange, if you marvel over sputtering neon, if you demand your noir with a side of speculative, if you've ever watched Night of the Hunter at 3 a.m., if you puzzled over David Lynch's movies and demanded more, if the works of Ray Bradbury cause your mind and heart to spasm, if you dig surf music, jazz, blues, and exotica, if libraries and skateboarding and old motels intrigue you, if your idea of nirvana is having a drink with Rod Serling in a tiki bar while Blade Runner lights up the darkness, you just might be in the right place. And we want you to stay forever. This episode of the Atomic Voodoo Lounge is brought to you by Chum Bucket Rum. When you find yourself trapped in the terahertz gap, there's only one thing that can get you through: Chum Bucket Rum, New Stanton's eternal spirit. Good evening. I'm Maxwell Vegas, your host, and on this inaugural episode of the Atomic Voodoo Lounge, the journey is all inward and down, a gateway, if you will, to the fictional world of New Stanton. This episode features a 6-word noir, some classic surf sounds in the music department, the cocktail of the evening, and our featured story, Braille of the Night, a New Stanton prelude following the exploits of one Mr. Harold Dean before he mysteriously finds himself at the Starlight Inn. The 6-word noir. This is my attempt to take the 6-word story format or 6-word memoir format, in other words, 6 words, to tell a noir or a speculative noir or a surreal story. Now, can you really tell a story in 6 words? Everybody looks to Ernest Hemingway's supposed 6-word story, For Sale, Baby Shoes, Never Worn. No arguing there. That certainly is the pinnacle of 6-word storytelling. However, my idea of a 6-word story is more along the lines of imagistic poetry or haiku, or like Jack Kerouac's idea of American haiku, emphasizing a little picture, a direct communication of feeling in 6 words. So for the first ever 6-word noir on the Atomic Voodoo Lounge podcast, I decided to go through tonight's feature story and pick out 6 words that I thought not only communicated the atmosphere and tone of the Braille of the Night, but also of New Stanton, and also encapsulated the mood and feeling of the Atomic Voodoo Lounge. So without further ado, here is the first ever 6-word noir on the Atomic Voodoo Lounge podcast. Veritable midnight spreads red under neon. I've got one more for you, a second. Alleyway red brick, fire escapes, dead end. Well, hopefully this isn't the dead end for 6-word noir here on the Atomic Voodoo Lounge podcast. So I'm sending out a Maxwell Vegas challenge to all my Substack subscribers. Send in your best 6-word noir, or 6-word speculative noir, or 6-word surreal noir, or 6-word noir, and I will feature the best in upcoming episodes of the Atomic Voodoo Lounge podcast. Now, in order to set the stage for the first ever appearance of the one and only Mr. Harold Dean in tonight's feature story, The Braille of the Night. Let's surf a little deeper into the Atomic Voodoo Lounge with some music. Welcome back. I'm Maxwell Vegas, and this is the Atomic Voodoo Lounge Podcast. You just heard Classic Surf by Maxwell Vegas. Now, here at the Atomic Voodoo Lounge, we like to spotlight a drink or cocktail for every episode. Some of them you can make at home, some of them you can buy locally, some of them you can only get at the Atomic Voodoo Lounge in New Stanton. Tonight's featured cocktail is the basic rum and cola, one of Harold Dean's favorite drinks. What you'll need for this one is 1.5 ounces of your favorite rum. We suggest Chum Bucket rum. 3 ounces of your favorite cola or diet cola. We suggest Swill Cola or Diet Swill. And a wedge of lime. How do you put it all together? Fill a glass with ice. Add your rum, fill the glass to the top with cola, squeeze in that lime, and if you want to spice it up, add some flavored syrups like cherry or vanilla. And to give this drink the visual pop that it needs, use one of those red sword cocktail picks and skewer the lime wedge. Tonight's featured story is brought to you by the Starlight Inn, New Stanton's place to stay when you've got nowhere else to go. Visible from the highway and offering the best views of New Stanton's legendary dried-up prehistoric sea. Treat yourself right under the starlight. Braille of the Night, The Descent. A New Stanton story by Maxwell Vegas. Harold's deep and languid voice washed over Z's lounge, its timbre belying the particulars of his life, the particulars of that bar. His wife, a no-show again, another babysitter issue, maybe. Van, his partner, making a payphone call, TV reflecting off his large, perspiring face as he sweet-talked someone. The barflies, half listening, half wishing they were anywhere else, their cataract stares gazing into wells of cheap booze and melted ice. Harold's own itch, the one at the base of his neck, the one that cried out for a couple of rims, some blue dynamite to make it all a bit smoother. But cheap draft beer was enough for tonight, wasn't it? Like a late-night radio host before the open microphone, he pushed aside nerves and misgivings and conjured a fictional town bordering an ancient sea, spinning a yarn in which two surfers, two cousins, paddled out each morning to do battle with monstrous waves, terrifying sea creatures, each other, and themselves. His voice drifting off into smoky silence, Harold unleashed a barrage of tremolo picking and reverb, the swirling LEDs strobing in time to the backing track's percussive double tom-toms, and off he went, exploring the musical landscape of his mind with whomever dared tag along. His mystic seafoam guitar, the jazz master, did all the talking, and he was free, if just for a few minutes. As if awakening from a dream, Harold glanced around the barroom, sweaty and delirious, confused applause trickling through the nicotine haze. "Guy's a fucking poet, right?" Ven said, raising a glass, the amber liquid sloshing toward the stage where Harold Dean stood bathed in green light. "Who writes a fucking surf rock opera, or whatever you call it, huh?" He crossed the short distance to his young partner. "This guy." Ven pressed a large finger into Harold's skinny black tie. "I gotta go, kid. I'll catch part 2 next time. Need to go out and read the Braille of the Night, if you know what I mean." He tossed back his drink. "Work tomorrow afternoon now, remember. Don't forget that little notebook." He chuckled to himself and waltzed out the door, blowing a kiss to Sonia, a middle-aged redhead languishing at the bar. "I'll be there," Harold said, unsure of what Ven was talking about, and settled into a seat next to the stage. The odd thing was, Ven never stayed out and drank when Harold played guitar, never listened to the entire performance, always an excuse to get away, presumably to go carouse with a special hidden lady. Like Z's wasn't low class enough or something. Harold referred to Ven as the diagram of friendship, each to their own, and then they'd meet in the middle later, do their collections or reclamations or assignments, whatever they were called. Beat, 5 o'clock shadow, threadbare. Harold took sips of beer and glanced about the crumbling lounge, guitar on his lap. This swill beer will be just fine tonight. Jacoby, the hippie who ran the open mic, got up from his mixing board and stood before the thin crowd, eyeing them through John Lennon specs, one lens red, the other blue, like 3D glasses, his head slightly tilted. "Ladies and gentlemen, don't you go anywhere. Stay tuned for part 2 of Harold Dean's surf rock extravaganza from the far out shores of some prehistoric inland sea, surfing cavemen, tiki birds, and reverb. And as always, don't forget to tip your barkeep." Jacoby moved away from the mic, feedback squealing across the small stage. Several patrons settled their heads back into their drinks. Only Sonia kept her eyes on the stage, dreamily smiling into the shadows. "Nice playing, Harold man," Jacoby said, running a hand through his long, greasy hair. "Love those tunes. You coming out next week?" "This shit's not going over so well, kid. It's like a joke," Harold said, spying a man at the bar who looked vaguely familiar. Maybe a teacher he once had? Harold played well and he knew it, but nothing seemed to be happening, like motion. Progress itself was impossible, like his creation, his musical fantasy, was only for himself, and that was a disappointment. "Nah, man, they dig it," Jacoby said, looking over Harold's shoulder at the sign-up sheet. I don't think they understand. I'm not sure I understand. Everyone understands surf, bro. It's the ocean. Jacoby cleared his throat and leaning in closer, his voice now distinct, unaffected, and low. Look, dude, you're a regular and you can play and you get a few people in here buying drinks, so I need guys like you to keep coming out. I need this gig. He winked, patted Harold on his shoulder and said, "Surf's up, man." "Right, kid," Harold said, defeated, thinking about the fact that he didn't get a dime for playing. The LEDs blinded him for a second as they bounced off Jacoby's crazy lenses, and the faint smell of patchouli rose over the ambiance of sour brew and cigarettes. Cheap beer must be enough tonight. After his second and final set, Harold sat at the bar and brooded over a draft. A TV news report went on about a fossilized radio, an artifact dug up on the edge of town, something that wasn't supposed to exist. He struggled to listen, cupping one hand to his ear, but Sonia kept interrupting. She had been there for hours, cigarette in one hand, smeared blue eyeshadow, run in her stockings, probably. Like a tragic drunken Endora from Bewitched, he tried his best to look around her, over her, at the TV, the bartender, anywhere but directly at her. It was useless. "I like the way you play that guitar, mister," the redhead slurred, her veined hand pointing over the bar. "That twang," she said with a wink and a crooked smile. "Thanks, Sonia. Glad you liked it. You and Jacoby." Harold sipped his beer and tried to contain the intense itch, the one dogging him all night, every night. He pictured a handful of blue and then the darkness. Outside of his music, it's what he needed, like a blanket of deep snow to keep it all away, to shut it out. This one beer is enough. Sonia stared vacantly, the pause extending way too long. "You know," she said, "my husband owns a motel not far from here. Well, Gustav did own it once upon a time. Just a quick stop, really, for passers-through and that sort of thing. Anyways, I still have some privileges. They afford me some courtesies, if you will." Z's barroom bloomed in a shimmer of neon and cathode ray artifacts. Sonia's voice, husky and alluring, seeped into his consciousness, and he dared to feel at home there. "Sonia, please." Harold motioned to the bartender to get the redhead another drink. "We go through this every week. I'm a married man. You know that." He remembered Samantha standing at the top of their stairs, her mouth moving without sound, the dry lips pulled tight against her teeth after each word, and a young girl peeking around her housecoat, eyes wide in the gloom. He held his guitar case, turned, and slammed the door. "If there's one thing I do know," Sonia smiled, smoke pluming through her cracked lipstick, "it's married men. Had one myself once. And notice, I didn't use the word happily." Her faded green eyes twinkled in the haze. "Thanks for the drink, Mr. Dean." Rising from his stool and dropping a few dollars on the bar, Harold said with a wry smile, "You're welcome. And you didn't need to get nasty." "Nasty? Me?" She swiveled to face him. "You like pills, Harold? I thought someone told me you did." "Sonia, I gotta go," Harold said and grabbed his guitar case, a hint of exasperation in his voice. "That last one was plenty. Just leave." "Blue dynamite?" "Sure, but maybe, just maybe you're trying to be good these days." "Oh, I've heard things. You and Big Van running assignments for the owner. How's about a Vicodin, What's the harm? It'll even you out after a tough day. No rough stuff, just a touch, you know?" "Listen, I thought I told you not to get nasty," Harold said, searching his jacket for a smoke and then his keys. Maybe Sonia was a witch, because Harold did know and felt it in his gut, his groin. back of his neck, deep down like something long lost and shameful and dear. He swallowed hard and imagined the redhead's eyeliner, dark and once pointed, flaring outward into emerald cat eyes. That last beer was not enough, was nothing next to a handful of forget. That was the moment, the universal moment, the moment of loss, the a priori moment when Harold knew what he knew without experiencing his forfeiture. The moment of inevitability, the moment of doom when the curtains close and yet one still sees the actors on stage. The moment of paradox where movement is still. The moment in a bar after drinks when it's too late to stop what's about to happen. This woman had something Harold wanted, and he wanted it wholesale, and he wanted it right then. Ducking out the bar's side door, guitar case in his left hand, the keys to his 64 Malibu in his right, Harold crossed a darkened alley, Sonia behind him, heels clicking against the wet pavement. "Guess we're going somewhere, Mr. Handsome?" Sonia asked. "Guess so, Miss Sonia, whoever you are," Harold said, as they made their way to the parking lot. "You're coming, right?" "Oh, I wouldn't miss this journey. Straight downward and in." They stood looking into the Malibu's trunk, their dark figures framed by alleyway red brick and fire escapes and the smell of restaurant grease. "What's in the duffel there, Mr. Handsome?" Sonia asked, pointing with one red nail. "Nothing and everything. My life, maybe just a bag of leaves, garbage. I don't know. Let me worry about that," Harold said, and placed his guitar case on the duffel. A solitary arc lamp cast long shadows across the lot as a strange flare lit the sky, green crackling radiation spreading out in tendrils against the night. "Get in," Harold said. "Are you taking me somewhere, or am I taking you?" Sonia asked, running her fingers playfully along the car's glistening blue. "Yeah, get in." The car revved its engine, a snarl ripping through damp air, tail lights glowing in misty halos, and the Malibu, a vessel of veritable midnight, driven by one Harold Dean, burst through the lot and down the fearsome boulevard, and Sonia, a red blur beside him. There you have it. The Braille of the Night, by yours truly, Maxwell Vegas. Now, I've been talking a lot about New Stanton and excuse me. Hello, this is the Atomic Voodoo Lounge, Maxwell Vegas speaking. Sam? No, he stepped out for a moment. Oh, Chaz, how are you? Good. You're sending someone over? Kiko. Well, never heard of Kiko. Whatever. Send them over. The more the merrier. Take care. Goodbye. Coming soon from HeavySixer Productions, New Stanton, a novel by Maxwell Vegas. Mr. Harold Dean, a shady alcoholic, just woke up with one hell of a hangover at the Starlight Inn, New Stanton's dingy motel. The only problem is, New Stanton doesn't exist. Join Mr. Dean on this postmodern night journey through buried memories, liminal spaces, and treachery as he searches for his sole means of escape, a blue 1964 Chevy Malibu. Will he be able to find his car before the evil Dr. Freytag does? Can Mr. Dean trust a host of bizarre characters to help him solve the mysteries of his own dysfunction and accept that New Stanton is exactly where he needs to be? The answer to these questions and many more lie scattered across New Stanton, a town that sits on the edge of a dried-up prehistoric sea, a town that exists inside and down. We've come to the end of the very first episode of the Atomic Voodoo Lounge Podcast. I'm Maxwell Vegas, and thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for more Atomic Voodoo Lounge stories, music, and poetry. Our current schedule is one episode every other week, or about twice a month. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and spread the good word. And if you're interested in contributing or being a sponsor, drop me a line and we can discuss the particulars. And don't forget, our 6-word noir challenge is open to subscribers. Check out the Atomic Voodoo Lounge on Substack and subscribe. You can also learn more about Maxwell Vegas and HeavySixer Productions at HeavySixerProductions.com or MaxwellVegas.com. VAGUS. A big shout out goes to our sponsors, Chum Bucket Rum. Coincidentally, I'm at the bottom of my Chum and Cola. And the Starlight Inn. All words and music composed, read, and or performed by Maxwell Vegas unless otherwise stated. All text, music, and performances copyright HeavySixer Productions, LLC, 2025. Some sound effects used under Creative Commons license. No AI training, please. Keep your AI bots away. Thank you, and have a good night.